This is the iPhone SE, Apple's first real entrance into the mid-range market. But the question is this still usable in 2020? Let's find out. So the iPhone SE, released back in March of 2016, was Apple's first real attempt at the budget end market. So why do I say first real entrance into the budget end market? Well, Apple did try the budget market with the iPhone 5C back in 2013, but it was a commercial failure from the start. These sold so bad, and it really was just a horrible iPhone to begin with. And it will go down as pretty much one of the worst iPhones to ever be made. So the main reasons why the iPhone 5C was bad was the fact that it had the iPhone 5 chip and not the iPhone 5S chip, which was released side by side with. It had an inferior camera, and it was basically an iPhone 5 in a new body. Consumers weren't happy. So Apple learned their lesson with the iPhone 5C, and they went back at it with the iPhone SE, released just 3 years later. The reason why the iPhone SE became a huge success was the fact that it used the same chip as the iPhone 6S, which was their most powerful chip at the time. It had a new rear camera and new specs. So that's the reason why the iPhone SE was successful. And they combined all these new specs into a body of an iPhone 5S, which was light and compact at the time. So the question is, can you use this phone in 2020?
So first, let's talk about the display. So the display on the iPhone SE is an IPS LCD display. It's Apple's Retina display, and it's pretty good. Like, it's not the best display, but it is pretty good. The viewing angles are pretty good for an LCD. I've seen a lot worse, and it is 720p, but it is Apple's Retina quality, so it looks really good. There's no complaints with the display whatsoever. The only complaint would be that it's a very small display, but it's a 5-inch display. Not a 5-inch. I think it's 4-inch display, not 5 inches. 4-inch display, but it's perfectly fine. And for some, the display size might actually be the reason you're buying this phone, because it's very compact, very compact. It's probably one of the most compact iPhones that are still usable in 2020. So this might be a selling point. So let's talk about build quality. So here's another one. And the build quality on the iPhone SE is just A1. Maybe the most premium feeling iPhone to date. Like, I feel like this has one of the best designs of any iPhone to date. It's one of the best looking iPhones, period. It's made out of aluminum with glass at the top and bottom in the front. It's very premium. It has that boxy shape that the iPhone 12 has. And again, it's one of the most beautiful iPhones to ever be made, in my opinion. So build quality, A1. And fun fact, the iPhone SE was the last iPhone to ever feature a headphone jack. Didn't know any. The iPhone 6S had the headphone jack. This came out in March of 2016. So this was the last iPhone to ever be built with a headphone jack. So the more you learn about software, because software is a big player when you're talking about iPhones. And this runs iOS 14, the newest software. So no complaints at all. Widgets, your widgets are here. Runs it smooth as silk. Opens apps just fine. Yes, I have an icon pack for this. It's the iOS 6 icons. It's not what it looks like normally. Trust me, this is not iOS 6. But it runs pretty well. Yes, that's Siri shortcuts. It has to open that every time. There's no way around that. But it runs it pretty good. Dark mode, control center, everything works pretty fine. You even get haptic touch, which they added with iOS 13, I believe, or iOS 14. No, iOS 13. They added haptic touch to the whole interface, and it runs pretty good. No problems with that. Now, if you're looking to buy this, I don't believe this is going to get iOS 15. I just don't see it getting it. I think iOS 14 is the last software update for this phone. I could be wrong, because, you know, Apple might throw a curveball on us and give us iOS 15 for the iPhone SE, but I doubt it. But it does run the newest software as of the date of this video. So no complaints there, but you may not be getting updates in the future. So let's talk about the camera. The camera on the iPhone SE is pretty good. It has the same rear sensor as the iPhone 6S, so it's very good. I know it's pretty washed out in the looking through the camera, but in person, it's a great camera. Now, the front-facing camera, that's a different story. So the front camera on the iPhone SE is horrible. I believe it's the same camera from the iPhone 5S. The rear camera got an upgrade in 2016. This got an upgrade, so it had the same sensor as the iPhone 6S, but they just forgot about the front-facing camera, so it's pretty bad. Like, it's pretty bad. I would never suggest you use a front-facing camera. Like, if you use FaceTime a lot and you take a lot of selfies, this is not the phone to get. But other than that, the rear camera is amazing. The front camera is iffy, but for the price you're paying for this phone, it's pretty good. So let's talk about performance. Now, I already hit on performance when I was talking about the software. Performance on this phone, pretty great. It really doesn't stutter at all. Yeah, it's the performance. It plays almost every game you throw at it. I believe this will play PUBG and stuff like that. I've played PUBG on this phone just fine. No problems. Anything you throw at this phone, it will do. FaceTimes, messages, Snapchat, Instagram, social media, music. It does everything. For phones at this age and at this price, like Android phones, this is no competition. This is a great phone for performance-wise. So let's talk about some little odds and ends. It does have Touch ID, but the only thing I don't like about this is it's the first generation Touch ID. So they did not bring the second gen Touch ID, which is a lot quicker, which was on the iPhone 6S, which they didn't bring over to the SE for some reason. Well, I don't have a problem with it. First gen Touch ID is just fine, but it's just not as quick. So now let's talk about the most important factor when buying this phone, and that's the price. How much does the iPhone SE cost in the used market? Well, as you know, Apple no longer sells this phone, so you have to buy this on the used market. And on the used market, a good condition iPhone SE will run about $100, 90, 80, 90 bucks for a good one. And you can find these much cheaper in rougher condition, but for a pretty pristine iPhone SE, almost brand new condition, $100 will do. And for $100, this phone is a major go. Major go. This phone may be the best $100 phone on the market. Hands down. You're getting the newest software. You're getting great performance. You're getting a great camera. There's no issues. Now, the only issue with this phone is the battery life. The battery life on the iPhone SE is really bad. It's, it's not horrible, but you're gonna get 3 or 4 hours of screen on time, maybe 2.5 hours of screen on time if you're a heavy user. So you're going to be charging this in midday if you're a heavy user. If you're a light user, maybe you're gonna get through a day, but for averages to heavy users, this is not going to be enough. The battery is really bad on this phone. I've owned one of these. I've owned many iPhone SEs, and all of them have the same problem with battery life. So yeah, you're probably gonna have to charge in the midday. But other than that, everything checks the boxes.
So is the iPhone SE worth it in 2020? And the answer is yes. I actually recommend this phone to a lot of people. This might just be the best $100 phone you can buy at the moment. I would use this phone in 2020. Me personally, I have Galaxy S20s, iPhone 10s. I've used the iPhone 11, but I would still use this phone in 2020. It's that good. This is a really good phone for somebody who's just getting into smartphones, like a kid or maybe an elderly person. This is the phone. No other phone at $100 even comes close to the value this brings to the table. So with that being said, thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like the video if you enjoyed it. Till next time, peace out.